hope. So let's take a look at the skill tab now. Oh boy, so there's a lot to do here, and some of this, especially when we get into the damage formulas and stuff, I don't mess with that at all. So I'm probably not going to be very helpful there, but but let's just look at some things here. So we've got, these are all the default skills in the game. Attack, and then here's where they have a item in the note box here, and this by default it says skill number 1, which meaning 0001. So this one will be used when you select the attack command. So if you wanted your game to not have a basic attack, but you wanted it to do something else, or even just call it something else, you could say, physical attack, or physical move, or whatever. This is the skill slot. This particular 0001, it's always going to be tied to your basic attack function in a battle. So this is the one you want to change if you want to do that. So if you want to do something different to how it normally works, so you change the name here, obviously, and then we have an icon here, and then by default it's the sword one. But if you double click on that, there's a whole bunch of icons by default that come with RPG Maker, and you can use any of these that you want for any of your skills or items or spells, or which you would also set up in skills here. But yeah, so anything you wanted, you can do. You can use any of these icons for, and there's quite a few. Not maybe as many as there used to be. Like in VX Ace, I think had more. More variety, or at least like some different ones that aren't in here. But that's because there were some changes between the versions and things. So, but yeah, so you can make use of any of these by default. There's also a pretty good icon generator out there on the internet if you look for it, and it has a bunch of other things you can use in addition to this to kind of make your own icons and things for if you want to really spruce things up. But anyway, that's where you would change your icon if you want. The description, if you want a description for it, says comment displayed when the skill is selected in the game. Now, for your basic attack ability, that's probably not going to be very helpful because I don't think it shows a description there. But if it was any of your other skills, like heal, fire, spark, any of the ones that you get to from the skill menu, like a magic menu or a special attacks menu or whatever, then they'll show up. Same with items and things, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So that's where you would type that in, and it would show up on screen. You only have a kind of a limited amount of visibility space. I think it's only just the 2 rows pretty much, and you got to be careful, just like with the text dialog box, you got to be careful with it going off the side of the screen here, because then you lose your visibility and it runs off the screen, and then so you probably want to keep them pretty short, but you can use both of the rows here to put in some interesting descriptions and things. So here we have skill type. This is the type of the skill. Skills are made available by setting add skill type in traits. So that was a little bit confusing, but if we click here, we can see more simply it's a magic skill type or a special skill type or none. So for your basic attack, you're probably going to want to put none, but if you do magic, say for example, then it would appear in the magic menu. So for characters that are allowed, like we saw in the classes here, I'll just go back briefly, add skill type magic. So if you set it to magic, then the priest could use it, but your warrior, I guess your warrior could too. Your mage. Okay, so by default they have it so all characters can use magic. So, but you could change that if you want. It's like, I don't want my warrior to be able to use magic, so you would just delete this line, and and then any skills in here that you have set to magic skill type, they won't be accessible to anyone that any of the classes that don't have access to magic. Same with special too. And I've seen a lot of games where what they'll do is they'll use magic for their mage type classes, their healers, their spellcasters, and then they'll use special as a completely separate category for double attack, triple attack, whatever, for the warrior classes, the physical based classes, and they don't, that's one typical way to separate them out, and that way your magic characters would have access to certain magic skills, and your special attackers would be like for your fighters and stuff, and they would have access to the special attacks and things like that. So, but again, this is all something that, I mean, is optional. You don't really even have to do it that way. I think for them to appear in, in the menu in a proper way, you have to set one of them. You could, say magic or whatever. Or you could have all your characters use special instead of magic. But then beyond that, you can set them, like, you could set all your abilities as special type, that you want to go in the menus. And then you could just set it up based on, what skills the character will learn, based on the class and stuff. So, you could say the warrior learns these 5 skills and the mage learns these 3 other skills that the warrior doesn't have. That sort of thing. You can do it that way too. So that's where you set that. MP cost. So if it's going to cost anything in magic points, amount of magic points consumed when using the skill. And I'm just going to call them tech points. I don't know what they're actually called. I think it's something like that. But amount of TP consumed when using the skill. So if it is something you want them to cast, that's where you would set the costs, and you can do both if you wanted. So you could do 5 magic points and 10 tech points, or however you want to do it. But for the basic attack, probably want to just leave that alone. So scope. Scope is important because it's a scope of the the tooltip is not very helpful. Scope of the effect. So, but when you get in here, you can select what this ability is going to target. So by default, your main attack would be one enemy. If you wanted your main attack to your main attack ability to attack all enemies for some reason, you could do that. 1 random enemy, 2 random enemies, 3 random enemies, up to 4 random enemies if you wanted. 1 ally, so if the target was not maybe it was an attack, like heal for example, will be like 1 ally or all allies, that sort of thing. Here we have 1 ally dead and all allies dead, so that would be for like a revival kind of skill, or like smelling salts to wake them up if they're knocked out, whatever you want to call it for your game. Then that makes it so they can target party members that have already fallen. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to with just 1 ally, or that sort of thing. And then finally we have the user. So if you have something that only is going to apply to the person that's using that ability, like maybe that they have an ability that increases their strength temporarily or defense or something like that, then then you would do the user, and that would be for that. So your basic attack by default just goes to 1 enemy. And then we have occasion. It says the screen or screens on which the skill can be used. So your basic attack you're going to be using on the battle screen, but there are certain things that you can do menu screen. So if it's some skill you wanted to be able to use just on the menu, you would set the menu screen. Just on the battle screen, that's going to be pretty common. Never. Trying to remember when you would use never for the occasion. I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I'm sure there's ways you can use that, but and then always is for abilities that you can use on both the battle screen and the menu screen. So, for example, like a heal skill would be always, or because you'd want to be able to cast a heal skill, like a magic heal or something. You'd want to be able to do that even when you're outside of battle, and also when you're in battle. So you would use always for that. So